Hey, everybody, welcome to the Chris Scott Show. I am so excited about having this platform. This is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. It's been on our list, but we just haven't got around to it. And what I've found is that every month we do these videos, and they're like a minute videos, 2 minute videos, and I'm talking about the market, and I have so much more to say. So, this is the opportunity to talk a little bit more in depth on what's happening in the Ottawa real estate market and some of the key indicators that are going to have an impact on where things are going. And for the first episode, I'm very pleased to have this handsome gentleman across from me here, Colin Raines, my partner, a longtime partner who's got a lot of experience buying and selling. Colin, I mean, you're on the ground with buyers and sellers. When we look back at 2025, before we look forward at what's going to happen this year,
Mhm.
how would you describe the year?
Uh, Not so bad, I think,
Yeah,
all things considered. I think a lot of people were probably predicting a bit of a better year as far as maybe appreciation, property
sure.
values, things like this, activity. We had some obstacles, I guess, that came up early in the year with tariffs, etc., that made things a little bit maybe uncertain for people.
Yeah, I mean, if we actually think back, it was a year ago that Donald Trump came to office. I mean, it feels like it's been 10
Just
years,
a
but
year.
it's literally been 1 year.
Yeah.
And at the start of last year, Justin Trudeau resigned, and the Conservatives were up by probably 25 points.
Yeah.
And we're going into an election that the Liberals obviously won. So, I mean, this is all happening in the first few months of the year. So, like, if you're a home buyer or you're approved for a mortgage, and Trump is talking crazy about Canada and annexing all that kind of stuff. There's some concern there about many things. So maybe they're not willing to pull the trigger on something. And we also had a very late winter, so from a seasonal perspective, it didn't really feel like the spring market. But it did feel like after the election, like things started to, I would say, thaw, but things started to move a little bit.
Yeah.
And Ottawa's pretty insulated from what's happening in other major market centers, but I felt like things were moving pretty good, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think
different stages.
at least in Ottawa, there
Mhm.
were enough people that were ready to make a move or had to make a move, whatever the reason. A big reason might have been mortgage renewal, I guess. A lot of people were at that point where they just had to move or have a problem with where they were, maybe.
Right.
But we're a government town, lots of contracts, lots of military in and out. So, like you say, insulated,
Yeah.
and our market was maybe stable is a good word for it. I think the uncertainty that we had last year was a big problem for some people. If you don't need to move, why would you move?
Yeah.
But some people definitely had to move. We helped a lot of people
Hey,
move
we had our
last year.
best year ever,
Yeah,
right? I mean, 20 years in the business, and
yeah,
we helped more people last year than we've helped any other year.
yeah.
So to do that in a down year is pretty good. But we also do a lot of military stuff, and I did notice that they're spending more money last year.
Mhm.
Like they have their budgets are actually larger because they have a certain amount of numbers they have to get
Yeah.
to be part of NATO. So looking forward to, and I want to touch on one thing you said too about the mortgage renewals, and this is something I was thinking about. Is this year coming up in 2026 is going to be interesting because there's more renewals this year than there ever have been. Because if you think back, well, 5 years, most people go 5 year fixed rates. Well, what happened 5 years ago? Well, 5 years ago was 2021,
Yeah.
and there was a barrage of sales. Everybody wanted to buy real estate, and you have a lot of people locked in. The difference between 2020 and 2021 is a massive difference in terms of what people paid for their house,
Sure.
right? The market went way up. If you remember, massive increase,
20%.
20%,
Yeah.
22%. And so now all of these people are renewing, and unfortunately, some of them will not have any equity in their house when they renew, which is too bad, depending on where they bought, or if they went. You got some people with all these multiple offers that were happening that went really big on a home, had to secure something, and
Mhm.
and overpaid for the market. So that's going to be interesting. I've been looking through what kind of impact that can have on Ottawa, and I read a stat that some mortgage um, payments will be 40% higher
Yikes.
than what they had. So if you can imagine on a day to day basis, your mortgage payment is 40% higher, and you're paying a lot more for everything else because of inflation. So that will be an interesting thing to look at. I don't think it's going to have a major impact on the Ottawa market because, I do think that, most Ottawa buyers are pretty careful. They're a little bit more conservative than other buyers in other market centers. So they're not typically going all if they get approved to a certain amount. They're not taking the whole amount and going out. They're pretty conservative.
Mhm.
So I do think that most buyers are going to have some room there, but it's going to be challenging. I mean, it's going to be challenging for a lot of people, and there will be people that have to sell. Because their home is just simply not affordable right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So what other factors do you see moving into 2026 that we should keep an eye on?
Well, kind of same, I guess, from down south.
Mhm.
See what happens. We've got some trade talks happening, which might clear up some uncertainty. We've added some more uncertainty in the last couple weeks, I guess, at
Yeah,
the same time.
for sure.
And then I guess, I mean, a big factor will be how the government policies on the workforce, on the size of the workforce,
Mhm.
how that comes into effect and how that affects people as well.
Yeah.
Because we
I
are,
I actually think that it's a really good point. I think that's gonna be the number one factor
yeah,
in Ottawa,
yeah,
because I think that, obviously, there's about 150,000, public service employees in Ottawa or the, National Capital Region, and it's like, if you're even potentially on the chopping block, you're probably not going out and buying a house.
no, no, you're gonna wait
Right?
and see what
Until there's
happens.
some
Yeah,
clarity on that. So it's not the people that are gonna get cut necessarily, it's people that think they are even in the realm of potentially losing their job.
hmm,
So I think that's gonna be a big factor this year, for the market for sure. I mean, interest rates will be a factor,
yeah.
right?
Are they going to move that much this year? I don't know if they will.
I think they will. I think so. Basically, where we're at with the Bank of Canada is their current rate, I think it's 2.25%. It's basically a neutral rate. So essentially, it's not hurting us, but it's not helping us either. It's not stimulating the economy. So I do think, and inflation is not far off from their target. I don't think they're going to reduce it next round, but I do think before the spring market, we will see that come down to 2%.
Interesting.
Uh, if I'm really optimistic, maybe by summer, even less, 1.75%. But that there's a lot of things that need to fall into place for that to happen, which would be great for us, be great for the real estate market, make things a little bit more affordable. But it's inflation, right? The Bank of Canada doesn't really care about, in terms of recession. I mean, that they just their main objective is inflation and
Mhm.
keeping inflation under control, and
Yeah.
and keeping it close to where their target is. So that's what they're looking at. So anyway, we'll see what happens there.
Hmm.
But it's going to be an interesting year for sure. I feel like this year coming into 2026, there's a little bit more trepidation, a little bit more concern with people that we're working with, wondering where things are going to go from a market perspective.
Okay.
But I do think that a lot of that has to do with the inventory. I mean, when I look at where we're at right now, inventory wise, there's so many different micro markets within Ottawa, but in general, a single family house, months worth of inventory, which is basically, a good way to understand if we're in a buyer's market, a seller's market, or balanced market. Between 0 and 3 months, we're typically going to be in a seller's market. 3 to 6 months is a neutral market or
Hmm.
balanced market. And if you have over 6 months worth of inventory, you're in a buyer's market. So what that means is if nothing else came for sale, it would take X amount of months to sell the current inventory. And when we look at single family homes right now, 4.3 months worth of inventory, which is very much a balanced
It's pretty
market.
balanced, actually.
It's balanced,
Yeah.
right? And it's actually balanced, but maybe even closer to seller territory. Now we're going to see that increase because it is a slower time of year. So as we approach spring market, we'll see that number go up.
Yeah.
But we also have a townhome, which is very surprising, under 3 months worth of just under 3 months worth of inventory, which again is technically seller's market, which you wouldn't expect, reading the newspaper or listening to people on the
Mhm.
news right now in terms of amount of inventory. So it's still a market that things are moving.
Yeah.
And then you have the condo market, which is really struggling, and will I think will continue to struggle over the next year, and they're at 8 months worth of inventory.
Yeah. It's going to take a while to get that
I think
inventory
more.
down, right?
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. The good news is probably if you don't have to list your condo this year, we're probably not going to. Probably a lot of sellers want to see that inventory kind of used up, absorbed.
100%.
If they're an investor or something, if they got someone in their unit, they don't have to move. Maybe they might wait and see what happens over the next year,
Yeah,
18 months.
yeah, it's been challenging. We've had a couple condos that we moved this year, and it's we have them well priced. We got them staged the right way. We're marketing it really well, and some of them were still sitting on the market longer than even we expected. Obviously, knowing it's not a great market, but there's just so much competition out there. So much so that builders like Claridge is as a good example. Long term plans to build these condo buildings. I can think of the ones down on Rideau Street. There used to be a supermarket there, Metro there,
Mhm.
and that from the get go was supposed to be a condo building, but they can't make money right now selling condos, so they actually made a rental building. So in a long term play, if you're thinking, okay, if I bought a condo today, first of all, you have to get a good deal on it.
Yeah, got to.
You'd actually have to pay below market value to make it worthwhile. I mean, because I do think that that market is actually probably going to go down a little bit more than where it is right now. If I was betting,
Mhm.
so you got to get it for below market value. But if you think, a couple years down the road, there's no new inventory coming in that segment, and that segment will rebound like everything. It will rebound, and people want to buy homes. There is going to be a shortage. There is a shortage of homes in Canada.
Mhm.
That's a fact, right? But maybe not right now because the demand is not as high as it usually is. But that could be a segment where somebody could make some money.
Yeah,
You know.
I think the play there, if you're buying a condo, most people are probably considering a strategy that involves holding it for longer than they might normally. I mean, sometimes it's a first property you live in for 1 or 2 years, and then you try to move up maybe to one of those townhouses,
Yeah.
or you're an investor. And instead of being focused on things you maybe were focused on before, um, if you're an investor, it's got to be cash flow positive for sure.
Yeah.
You got to be making money now for it to be worth it. But if you're going to live there, if you're going to live there for 5, 6 or more years, I think there's a great chance that the cycle comes around again,
Yeah.
and you bought in below market value, of course, but your appreciation is going to be great when you get to that 5, 6, 7 year mark for sure. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Stranger things have happened, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Toronto is even worse. Like, I don't want to talk about Toronto market, but like we got colleagues, and we go to these conventions and we talk to people that are in the Toronto condo market, and it's like I don't think people understand how bad their condo market is right now.
Yeah, but we've got 8 months worth here of inventory. Is that right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not even like it's over a year's worth, and the challenge there is the prices have come down so much.
Yeah.
Here, prices have interestingly, and that may change this year with the condo market, but they've been I mean, they're a little lower, but relatively stable comparative to Toronto, and people are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on their condos there, but
In Toronto.
in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, in Toronto. So, I mean, let's think about buyers. So, I mean, there's probably a lot of buyers that are listening right now and wondering, okay, we're coming in 2026. I mean, there's so much going on, so much to consider. Is it a good time to buy a place? What would you say to that?
As a general question,
Hmm.
um, I think generally, yeah,
Hmm.
I do think so. I don't know that. I mean, I don't feel that mortgage rates are going to come down too much more. Um, to be honest, some rates have gone up a little bit even in the last couple months. I think that it's certainly a buyer's market as far as choice in a lot of places.
Yeah,
Um,
there's more inventory to choose from than there usually is in Ottawa, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And I think that's going to be helpful for people who are trying to keep their prices reasonable, or,
sure.
we're not looking at crazy above market value for a condo or for some townhomes. I mean, any home, even in multiples, some homes are still getting multiple offers. But they're not selling for crazy amounts, always over asking. It's just for me that shows that there's a lot of people in the market, and when
Mhm.
a good home comes up for sale, there's a lot of people ready to buy it.
It's very interesting you say that because I'm finding the same thing. It's like the average listing is being left behind.
Yeah,
Like the really good listings
you got to be
that are
good.
well priced, well positioned on the market, staged, deferred maintenance done, maybe a little bit of wow
Gotta
factor.
have a wow factor.
You almost have to have a
Yeah,
wow
yeah.
factor right
Sometimes
now.
we have the right price,
Yeah,
but it just isn't enough.
something that's got to pull them in,
And
right?
weirdly, psychologically, you'd think at this point buyers, see the advantage of the market conditions as opposed to what they were 3, 4 years
It
ago.
makes no sense.
Let's buy a tree house.
That's the thing. Like 2 years or 3 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
like everybody wants to buy a house and will do absolutely anything. Letters, hundreds of $1,000s over asking price, no conditions, no inspections, nothing. And now there's lots. I mean,
Well, maybe.
there's lots available, and then there's a good amount of inventory available. And buyers like, no, no,
Yeah.
thanks.
Well, I see people maybe, there's so much coming to market. Maybe something better will come up in a week or two.
Right.
I don't want to settle. I don't have to
Sure.
move, maybe,
Yeah.
but I'd like to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny because I mean, and this is great by the way, because we talk about the market all the time, and this is just us talking about the market. This
yeah.
is what we do on a daily basis, basically in our office. Now we just have a mic in front of us.
Yeah.
But we talked the other day about $1 million buyer, and it's like, okay, this year $1 million buyer actually gets you a little bit more than it did in previous years, right?
Oh yeah, $1 million is I
It's
think
reasonable now.
well, $1 million is a big number again. If
Yeah,
that makes sense, if that's
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah.
It used to
Depending on where
be,
you're looking.
yeah,
Obviously, if you're looking down the glebe and stuff, it's not a big number, but
sure. But like a Claridge new build home was 1.1 at some point,
yeah,
right? And it was kind of like, yeah, nothing.
yeah,
But now $1 million again, people consider, do I want to spend $1 million on a house?
yeah,
Has to be in a good spot, has to have certain things. They don't have to buy it.
yeah,
So again, that's why they're
yeah.
taking a moment. They see a
Sure.
house they like, but let's see if we can get a better deal or a better place somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I've been doing this for a long enough time that I remember that, 500,000, like 500,000 was like a big, big number. I mean, it was like you were a luxury buyer basically when I started.
Mhm.
The average price is, 200,000 or something like that. So it's like, okay, if you're a buyer now, I think you just have to have a long-term thought process of, okay, where's this house going to be in 10, 15, 20 years down the road? Considering everything is going up in price, inflation's going up, everything's getting more expensive. These houses are getting more expensive to build. Ottawa is a city that is growing. There's more people coming into Ottawa each and every year. So, that's what I would tell a buyer right now is, obviously find a place that's going to suit your needs. First off, that's going to be well priced. That is well within the market value, because there's a lot of sellers that are still stuck on previous prices,
Mhm.
and it's really important to be able to identify that. And obviously, that's where we come into play.
Yeah.
On negotiations. And sometimes you put an offer in, it doesn't come together because they're not realistic on where the market is. I'm talking about the sellers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's something that we've experienced as well, where we've put offers in place. We're like, hey, if you take it, great. If not, that's okay because we're not overpaying for a property right now in this market. We need to get good value for buyers.
Mhm.
So okay, so that's interesting. And then what about sellers? If you were a seller in this market, what advice would you have for seller right now?
For sellers, I think um, it's hard for some sellers to wrap their heads around this micro market kind of situation.
Mhm.
You have friends all over the city. You're hearing some people are selling in multiple offers, like we said. And my home is sitting on the market for 6, 7, 8 weeks. It's well priced.
It's kind of weird actually because it's like you like even when you watch our podcast or watch a market update video, you're like, this market's slow, and then you have a buyer, and every house you're showing them has multiple offers.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about a buyer we're having that's around $1 million, Linden Lee, New Edinburgh, Westboro, looking. That's their reality. Their reality is they're competing on every house,
Yeah.
whereas most people's reality is that's not the case. So, definitely lots of micro markets, right?
Yeah, but the buyers are out there. So if
Mhm,
you're a seller, I think coming to sellers with real numbers,
mhm.
um, talking about having patience, knowing that it's going to take a few extra days on the market. That's not a crisis. It's just buyers are being more selective.
Right.
They're more strategy driven, value driven, and they're going to see a house. They know they have time to maybe come back and see it again. So it's going to take time. And at the same time, I think again that wow factor is a huge part of the selling process right now. Price. used to be less important. I do think price is generally pretty important to get that list price right. So you
Mhm.
got to be in that range. But right now, you got to be in that market value range.
Or you're
Sometimes
not even get showings.
you're not going to get
Yeah,
showings, right?
yeah,
And maybe sometimes even a little bit lower in order to stand out. But standing out to a seller is so clutch right now. You gotta, yeah. And sometimes you don't have that home, and sometimes we can do things to make the home stand out more. But
100%.
if
Yeah,
you have a home that you can set up properly, present it well, it's in the right price range, there's a lot of people that will buy it. So
yeah,
maybe you need a bit more patience than other years.
yeah.
But I think if you stay the course, I think it's still going to be a good year. And I mean, sellers, there's a lot of listings right now, but sellers like when there's buyers out. If a lot of people are buying, that makes sellers go, okay, well maybe this is a good year, and they are out there. So
Right.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Really what you're talking about, and the way I see it is you're talking about the real estate experience for the sellers in terms of getting the right advice, having the right presentation preparation for their home, in terms of doing the deferred maintenance, getting
yeah,
it kind of ready to go in the right way, and then going to market,
yep.
right, and pricing it well
Right now,
and
actually,
marketing it well.
it's interesting. I have a condo listing now, and the seller sold a few years ago. They sold a home, and they were selling this condo kind of for sale by owner on MLS kind of thing, and it wasn't working. But they said, look, a few years ago, kind of any realtor could sell a house. I could
Yeah,
probably sell it myself, kind of thing.
yeah,
But now they're recognizing that it takes a bit more. You need not only those listing factors and the right price. You've got to have communication. You got to be following up with people because it takes longer to happen.
right.
You got to have relationships. It helps that we've been around for a while, but you got to be able
Dude,
to
there's so many
stand
other
out that way too, right?
Yeah, there's so many agents out there that are killing deals
Yeah,
because of their ego.
yeah.
Honest to
Got
God,
to drop the ego right now.
it's
Yeah,
crazy. Like, it takes obviously some patience to get an offer now, and sometimes just agents are not dealing with the offers the proper way, and it's killing deals, right? So
some agents aren't at all used to this market condition that we're in. They
right,
they they came up only 5 years ago,
right.
and it was very different, and they haven't experienced what
I'll
we've
tell you,
experienced before it happened, right?
and it's interesting because, and we obviously I mastermind with a lot of realtors
Mhm.
in and around Ottawa, and we talk a lot. And having a really good realtor on the other end of the transaction is more important than ever now. I'm not even talking about like I'm representing the seller, whoever represents the buyer. That person is very important because after almost every inspection, it's like a renegotiation,
Yeah.
right? So like there's multiple you know, pressure points right now through that transaction.
Mhm.
And so it's really important that, there's good dialogue and good communication and because you're often negotiating the deal twice.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And you got to get to that point in the first place, right?
Right, right.
And
100%.
there's so many people out there, so many houses. You got to have a good connection with people and make sure that you make your client's home stand out that way too.
Yeah.
Be the greasy wheel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 100%.
the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. That's the that's the one.
I like actually that sounded pretty good the
Yeah.
first time. So if you're thinking about, looking back on 2025, all the experiences we've had helping families, is there anything that stands out to you as an experience that you're most proud of?
You know what? I think there's a couple people. I think on our military side, um, I think there were probably less opportunities maybe than some years, um, but that's because there were less opportunities here, or some people chose to rent instead of buy maybe. But anybody that came to town, even in the challenging market we had, we were able to find everybody a place
Yeah.
and a place they were happy with. I got to say.
That's it.
Uh,
That's good. Yeah.
I found a lot of my clients last year, maybe they weren't thrilled to be moving to Ottawa in the first place, depending on where they're coming from, maybe. But they came here. We did the same thing we always do.
Right.
And there were a lot of great homes out there that we were able to get great prices for. And so I think that we made a lot of people happy that way.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. When I think back on last year, uh, I think just in general, I mean, the whole year just felt so much smoother than 2024 for our team.
Hmm.
I think back to our clients, we had some awesome clients this year, like really, really good people. And there's two really that stand out. One, I had some clients that relocated They bought basically a mansion in Stittsville, and I think it's my dream house that they bought. I thought I was in my dream house until I saw their house, and anyway, they're so happy. They're such a nice young family. Then, and obviously, he's a doctor, and we're relocating to Ottawa. They got some family in town, and I mean, they just hit a home run with the house they bought. I mean, couldn't have worked out better from a timing perspective. We negotiated them down like a huge number, and so it was just a real good success story. And then the other one was a family that we had the house on the market previously with another a real estate company, and we came in. We did some deferred maintenance. We suggested the floors get sanded, refinished. Did some staging. Ended up getting a great offer for them. But more importantly, we sent letters out to the exact neighborhood where they wanted to buy out in Almont, and we're able to find them options out there. And they've since moved out to exactly where they wanted to be, the street they wanted to be on. The house needed some work. I don't think they had that on their list, but it worked out really well because they ended up getting a really good deal on it. Put some money into the house, and they're just so happy. So it's those, like, you get a text message like 2 months later or 3 months later saying, "Just so you know, like, this is our house now.
Yeah.
This is our life. We're so happy with how everything worked out." That those are the moments that make it worth it for
Yeah, there was a
us.
few of those last year. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good, awesome. Well, listen. First of all, I want to thank you for coming.
Thanks, Chris.
It's very fitting that you're the first guest. You're probably just going to be here. It's probably just going to be me and you most of the time, just
Yeah,
shooting the breeze
that's
about
fine with me.
auto real estate, which is great. And I hope our listeners enjoyed, and I hope we can do a few more of these in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.